Hello and welcome to another episode of Sci-Fi-Night Ranking, where we rank our favorite movie series, TV shows, seasons, and so on. So by now most of you should know the deal, and believe it or not, but I'm actually a big fan of the Hellraiser series. Admittedly, I became a fan during my lonely, angry, emo period in life, but I was always kind of fascinated by the dark and morbid creativity and storytelling. The movies follow different characters coming into contact with a hellish puzzle box that summons the Cenobites.
Demons to some, angels to others.
And the films range from kind of great to fucking atrocious. So, with a 10th entry in the series, Hellraiser Judgement, on the way in mid-February, it's as good a time as any to rank the previous 9 Hellraiser films from worst to best.
We'll tear your soul apart.
You're tearing me apart, Pinhead! With some very mild spoilers, and from the most despised to the most loved, people's opinions differ quite a bit on these films, so be sure to either tell me your ranking or just call me an idiot in the comments below. Anyway, let's start off with the shittiest movie in the series. So yeah, I'm getting controversial already with the number 9 spot, and in it we find Hellraiser 8, HELLWORLD. So in this terrible, terrible film, the whole Hellraiser mythology is based on a video game? Or the video game is based on in-world mythology? I don't know, or care for that matter. Either way, a bunch of fans of this world of Hellcraft gather at the kind of late 90s, early 2000 raves that we only ever see in movies, hosted by a suspicious man with a dark agenda, played by Lance Henriksen. And not even Superman himself, Henry Cavill, can save him, this time without the CGI upper lip. Okay, so before we begin, did I mention that this film is terrible? Well, not only that, but it's so desperately trying to be cool, it's so desperately trying to be edgy, and since we know for a fact that this script wasn't a Hellraiser film to begin with, it's so desperately trying to be a Hellraiser film. That's the biggest sin here. This, for me anyway, feels the least like a Hellraiser film, as Pinhead only shows up to kill someone and say a really dumb line that would make Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze embarrassed.
How's that for a wake-up call? All right, everyone, chill.
The ending is also downright infuriating.
Not good.
I won't spoil it for that one masochist watching this trying to torture himself with bad movies, but from slow-mo to fast motion speed up to terrible characters to how poorly Pinhead is portrayed, this film can go straight to hell.
This is where the shit hits the fan, guys.
Alright, so at the number 8 spot we find the 9th entry in the series, Hellraiser Revelations, and I can already feel the hate being typed in the comment section below for me not putting this as the worst. Yes, Doug Bradley did not reprise his role for this film, being replaced by some random actor nobody's heard of, who was about as well liked as the Black Plague.
Debt is outstanding, and we seek payment.
Give this poor guy a break. I mean, nobody can fill Doug Bradley's shoes, we knew that from the start. Alright, so before we get too far, let's get to the plot. In it, we follow two friends going on a wacky trip to Mexico to do the usual party, drink, accidentally kill a prostitute. Oh wait, shit.
Accident? You guys were she's fucking dead. How is that an accident?
Anyway, in some poorly written way, they get their hands on a Lambent configuration and unleash Pinhead, who looks like he's been on the cheeseburger diet, and his other Cenobites, and our characters are put through hell as we later on meet their families who get dragged into this anguish. Now, let's make no mistakes here, this is an extremely shitty film. It's got the worst budget and production value of the entire series, and the acting isn't much better. But I feel a lot like my buddy YouTuber Fedora from WUHRER on this one. Sure, it's got this fake ass Burger King Pinhead, sure Sci-Fi-Night has a higher budget than this film, but there's a lot of ambition and love for the source material here. Unlike previous films that feel like the Hellraiser mythos is tacked on, here it all feels appropriate and at least feels like a proper Hellraiser film with very Hellraiser-y kind of themes, and not one, but two kind of nifty little twists at the end. Is it a good film? No, but I'll take flawed ambition over by the numbers company bullshit any day, and that's why Revelations is number 8.
You got a better idea?
Yeah, I do. How about anything?
Alright, the controversy continues with a number 7 spot, which goes to Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. Alright, so I know some fans like this entry, and I totally get that. It's got lots of energy and lots of blood, but I kind of hate it. This picks up right after part 2 as Pinhead is encased in a weird statue and gets bought by some asshole club owner. We then follow a young reporter who, for some fucking reason, becomes the one who has to stop Pinhead once he gets released to cause the aforementioned hell on Earth.
Break it down, Doc. It's a wrap.
This film actually starts off okay and with a little bit of atmosphere, but this quickly becomes the Nightmare on Elm Street 2 of the Hellraiser series by changing the already established rules of the mythology, but in a shitty way, and for just being over the top and removing all the scares and atmosphere. Also, this movie gets major shit points for ditching all the old cool Cenobites and replacing them with the most stupid ass looking dollar store version of Cenobites I've ever seen. Oh no, this guy has a pipe in his head. Ooh, this guy's got a camera in his face and says really stupid one-liners.
Ready for your close-up, Joey?
Oh, check out this guy, he fucking throws CDs? What the fuck? Is this a Cenobite or some jerk trying to get his mixtape out there? The resolution of this film, with Pinhead's humanity shining through, is downright stupid, and most of this film is just goofy and silly, which is one of the worst sins a Hellraiser film can commit. This feels like an over-the-top, stupid slasher film with terrible death scenes. Gone are the feelings of discomfort and a twisted realm of pleasure and pain. Here instead we get explosions and shitty one-liners.
That's a wrap.
If you like Hellraiser 3, that's fine, I get it, but I can't stand how silly it is and what it does for the tone and atmosphere that was so well established and important for the series. And for that, it's the number 7 spot.
Fuck you.
So at the number 6 spot, we find the 7th and most stupidly titled entry in the series, Hellraiser Deader. Because why be dead when you can be deader? Haha, okay, seriously, whoever thought up that title deserves a fucking kick in the balls.
Thanks a lot, so I do all the suffering.
Anyway, in this film we follow fearless reporter Amy Klein, played by KARI, who will do anything to get a story, even go to Romania to investigate a strange suicide cult, where these victims come back to life.
Either way, it's a good story.
So, of course, she comes into contact with the Lambent configuration and Pinhead as she tries to get out of this hellish nightmare she's wandered into. Okay, so full disclosure, I was expecting to hate this film, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised by it.
I don't hear you complaining.
No, that's the point.
Sure, it's definitely cheaper on the edges, way too well lit, and the Cenobites are barely in it, though they do look great when they are, and there are some pretty creepy and disturbing scenes which I very much enjoyed. The idea of this cult somehow getting immortality by finding a way through to the world of the Cenobites is pretty cool, even if there's so much that's unexplained.
You have been recruited as a soldier in another man's war. A war that he can never win.
I mean, the whole core concept doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, why does this cult manage to get only the good parts of a Hellraiser world? Whatever, I don't care.
Because when it's dark enough, there's no such thing. There's no difference between being dead and alive.
There's also a really great sequence where our main character is bleeding profusely without dying. And she needs to cover it up so she won't be found out. I actually loved that whole sequence and found it really unique to the series, though nothing ever matches that cool in the rest of the film.
For fuck's sake.
The movie itself does as much for Romanian tourism as Hostel did for Slovakia, and while there definitely is quite a bit to like, the ending is really fucking stupid, with people just quietly and politely standing in a straight line waiting to be killed by Cenobites. Unfortunately, the ending really brought the entire film down for me, because I was pretty forgiving about the cheapness and weak writing up until then, but Hellraiser Dead, Deader, Deaderest at the end lands on the number 6 spot.
Who I am is no concern of yours, and you may be assured that this is not my handiwork.
Alright, we're almost halfway through, and at number 5 we find Hellraiser 6, Hellseeker. A title a little too similar to Hellraiser itself, but whatever, the stupid titles keep on rolling. In this film, we finally get the return of Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty, the heroine from the first 2 films.
You opened a door long ago, and it will not be closed until I get what I came for. What I want is you.
For about 20 minutes of screen time anyway. In this film we follow Trevor, Kirsty's husband, who awakes after a car crash with amnesia, trying to put together the pieces of what happened in order to save Kirsty.
Would you please tell me what the fuck is going on?
I wish I knew.
All while being played by demonic hallucinations, scary visions, and lots of sexy ladies trying to sleep with him, and wait a minute, that doesn't sound so bad.
Interesting.
Okay, so anyway, Trevor is about as fun and charismatic a main character as a wet towel, especially compared to Kirsty, but I guess this bland, nice guy persona works for his amnesia story. And though a little predictable, I feel like the story here works pretty well overall.
Most supple and delicious.
There are quite a few nice shots and effects, all the Cenobites look awesome, but I wanted a little more dread, scares, and hellish atmosphere.
All problems solved.
In fact, with the exception of a few scenes, it doesn't even really feel R-rated. Overall, this movie is a little tame in comparison to others, but I do like the more psychological approach here, and I actually really liked the twist at the end, even if I could kinda see it coming. It needed more Kirsty, blood, and scares, and while not originally a Hellraiser script, then it turned out to be a mostly enjoyable ride, or at least a much more enjoyable ride than the one that Kirsty and Trevor took. At the number 4 spot, we reach Hellraiser Inferno, the 5th movie. So this might be another controversial entry, as some fans despise this movie, but I actually really like Inferno, and let's get into why. In it, we follow a shady detective investigating strange ritualistic murders committed by some kind of serial killer dubbed the Engineer. And our kind of unlikable main character gets drawn into a dark and hellish world of torture, all while terrible late 90s music plays to try and make everything sexy. So a lot of people seem to hate this film, but I feel like it's the best of the straight-to-video sequels. It's, in my opinion anyway, the most well shot, acted, and directed of the later sequels.
And that matters, that means something to me.
Which makes sense since it's directed by Scott Derrickson, who went on to direct the Sinister movies and Doctor Strange, amongst others. I just really like the atmosphere here. There's a lot of freaky imagery that I like, and the gimmicky ending of it is only really gimmicky because some of the sequels kind of copied it. The Wire Twin Cenobites were awesome. And while being a total asshole,
Fucking scumbag.
the main character was at least interesting to follow. That said, the film is kind of an unclear mess strung together by strong direction, production, effects, and performances in a very flawed tale of redemption. The writing here isn't particularly strong, which is a shame as the aesthetics are great, and I really didn't like the film noir style voiceovers that our hero has from time to time.
Be the innocence of children, but staring at the faces of 1,000 missing kids. Envy is the last thing you feel, and most of these little ones were gone for good.
So at the end, I still enjoy this film quite a bit, despite all its many flaws and bad writing. The overall visuals and atmosphere just did so much more for me than any of the other sequels that followed, and it shows how emotional and psychological torture can be just as bad as being torn apart by chains. You are tearing me apart, Pinhead! Alrighty, 3rd place goes to Hellraiser 4, Bloodline, and once again, I guess this might be a little bit controversial as there are a lot of fans who hate this installment, and I guess when it comes to the Hellraiser series, there is no way to have a ranking without somebody being pissed off. Anyway, this is a picture whose ambition is only matched by its infamous production problems, even to the point where the original director didn't even want his name on the film. And make no mistake, this is an extremely flawed film, and if you hate it, I totally get that. There's stuff about it that I hate too. But I still like it way more than many of the sequels that followed. In this film, it tries to tell 3 different stories across 3 different time periods, one of which is in space and totally stupid. And this was perhaps a bit too ambitious for the filmmakers, who kind of fail at making something coherent. Also, seriously, the last part in space fucking sucks. Anyway, in it we follow the maker of a Lambent configuration and his descendants through history in an eternal battle against the forces of hell. And while the writing and production is all over the place, at heart there is a great film here with interesting characters and rich mythology. There are fan cuts of a film out there that actually kind of make a little bit more sense, and it actually kind of works if you're willing to put up with some drastically different film quality depending on what part of a film you're seeing.
What you will give me is the true version.
Angelique was a great addition and a fantastic villain who's only really surpassed by Pinhead himself, who is, as always, brilliant.
For God's sake. Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Oh yeah, and fun fact, as a lonely, angry, dressed in all black and spikes teen, I always had a weird little thing for Angelique, both human and Cenobite form, so yeah, there's something you can judge me with. Anyway, I know I can be very forgiving when it comes to talent and potential, too forgiving perhaps, but either way, I really enjoyed Bloodline for what it tried to do. The effects, performances, and themes brought up are very interesting, and it gains major points simply for that beautiful shot of Pinhead holding the dove. Wonderful stuff. So yeah, this is definitely one of the more flawed entries on here, but in my opinion the creative core shines through for me and really won me over, which is why it's on the 3rd spot.
This isn't a game.
Oh yes. This is a game. And now it is time to play.
Alright, we're at the silver medal placement, and number 2 goes to Hellraiser 2 Hellbound. Alright, so this is actually a really good sequel, and fans seem kinda split right down the middle on whether this is better than the first film or not. Growing up, I kinda preferred Hellraiser 2 over the first, but looking back and judging from my last viewing, the higher budget and production value is also matched by some contrived scenes and cheesy moments.
What is this?
In it, Kirsty Cotton, our heroine from the first film, is in a mental institution because apparently stories of magic boxes summoning torture demons makes you sound cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
You got a ticket to hell?
The main doctor in the institution has a fucked up dark side, leading to him experimenting with the Lambent configuration and summoning characters from the first film. Overall, this is a damn enjoyable sequel with a higher budget, mostly better effects, and a much more energetic and engaging pace. Kirsty's adventure through hell leads her to all kinds of crazy encounters.
What's the matter, Kirsty? It's only Frank. It's only Uncle Frank.
Oh no.
And the film kind of goes off the rails a little bit towards the end, but whatever, I'm still kind of cool with it. I mean, after all, the sequel really expands the whole mythology and world of Hellraiser, which is darkly wonderful in its bizarre creativity. I do feel like the first half is stronger than the second, and that the general feeling of dread dies down a little while after, which is a shame, but overall, this is a very well made sequel that many fans think is better than the original, and that is definitely enough for a well earned 2nd place.
Oh, Kirsty. So eager to play. So reluctant to admit it.
That brings us to the number 1 spot, Hellraiser, the 1978 original. Oh man, this is one hell of a little film. Amazingly only made for $1 million.
Would you look at this?
The film introduces Frank, a fucked up, sex-obsessed douche constantly searching for darker temptations. He meets his match when he opens the Lambent configuration and summons the now legendary Pinhead and all his other Cenobites, who literally tear him apart. You are tearing me apart, Pinhead! Through some, I don't know, hell magic or something, Frank is brought back to life when his brother Larry bleeds on the floor where Frank was killed, starting a dark and sick mission to be brought back to life with the help of Larry's wife, Julia, who Frank had an affair with many years ago.
Every drop of blood you spill puts more flesh on my bones. And we both want that, don't we?
And lastly, impacting Larry's daughter Kirsty, who gets dragged into this hellish mess. So as you can already tell, this is much more character based, and the overall atmosphere here is wonderfully dark with a real sense of unease and mystery where we never fully know what's going on or if Kirsty is actually safe. This is a landmark horror film that is so creatively unique, and actor Doug Bradley's portrayal of Pinhead is unmatched, well deserving of being a slasher villain legend.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Even if this is much more straightforward horror that was kind of unmatched by its rivals at the time. This is a great, morbid tale of sex, violence, temptation, and darkness in one wonderfully bloody little package with fantastic effects and performances. Director Clive Barker truly gave us something unique, and I won't see the original being beat for a very long time.
You solved the box. We came. Now you must come with us. Taste our pleasures.
Alright, so that about does it for this episode of Sci-Fi-Night Ranking. Like I said, I would love to know your guys' ranking of the Hellraiser series, as fans seem pretty split on what's the best and worst. And what do you guys think of Hellraiser Judgement? You looking forward to it? You think it's going to be better than the last 3 films? Let us know as well. So as always, I'm your host, Sebastian Mendel Martinez, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Jesus Christ!
Not quite.